Good morning, I'm Tony Fieldhouse, I'm a chartered building surveyor. I haven't always been a surveyor. When I left school, I hadn't much idea what I was going to do, so I drifted into accountancy, which I did for a while. I did for 2 years, but I was more interested in playing in a band and messing about, and I failed the second year exams, or at least I actually passed all the bits of the exams, but in Scotland you've got to pass them all at the same time, so that doesn't count. So I thought, to hell with that, I'll go and join the army. So I did a short service commission. I was a lieutenant in the parachute regiment for 4 years. This is all decades ago, in long forgotten conflicts. I served in Aden, which used to be a British protectorate in the days that we had colonies and things like that. It's that long ago. I guarded the Chinese frontier in Hong Kong, which we've given back ages ago as well. We invaded the Caribbean island of Anguilla because they had the temerity to declare independence, and Prime Minister Harold Wilson thought he'd send in the army. And I ended up at the beginning of the conflict in Northern Ireland, and I was very happy to leave. After that, I went and worked for a travel firm in North Africa. My designation was I was a driver leader. I drove people all around Morocco, Algeria, and in the winter back and forwards across the Sahara to Niger. We did break in the back then. Actually, you can't do that nowadays. You get your head sawn off. It's wrong shape. But anyway, so we won't do that again. When I came back, I was still getting on a bit. My dad said, when was I going to get a proper job? So I settled down in London and I sold computers in the city of London for a firm called Burroughs Machines. They're now Unisys, or they probably just a bit as well. Anyway, I did that for 2 years, then I worked for another 6 or 7 years with a Dutch chemical company, 3 years in Caracas in Venezuela, then they posted me to Madrid for a year, so I worked there in Madrid, and then I got posted finally for 2 years as the manager of their office in Seville, which is very nice, and fantastic, and wonderful weather, but I couldn't make any money, so I got made redundant eventually after that. So I came back to Britain, age 36, with a bit of money, but no qualifications. So, and I had a wife and 2 children by then, and to the horror of my wife, I signed up for a 4-year degree course, earning nothing, of course. So I did 4 years of the building degree with Herrick Watt in Edinburgh, and took another 2 years to qualify after that as a chartered surveyor, and after various ramifications, divorce, apart from anything else, in London, and after another redundancy, I ended up still with some money, but I started my own business here in Ealing, or rather Greenford, in 1992. Now, as you know, for the last 8 years or so, I've been surveying and inspecting houses for people buying them. But actually, the market for that is getting a bit used up by large companies who are on the internet. Of course, people dial up, say the address of the house they want to buy, and the surveyor comes along for half the price that I would charge. So what I'm specialising in now is being party wall surveyor, because that's the thing that a chartered building surveyor is pretty ideally suited for. So what I'm looking for is either for building owners who want to do work, and there's an adjoining or nearby property that may be affected by that work, or for the owners of buildings next to where work is being proposed that might affect their building. Now, the Party Wall Act protects building owners who wish to extend or carry out work to their property, and it protects the adjoining owners, making sure that if there's any disruption, it's reduced to a minimum, and any damage is repaired in good time by the building owner at the building owner's cost. Good, eh? There's 3 types of work that come under the Act. This is where you might find yourself nodding off during this, but I find it really grippingly interesting. Anyway, the first part is to the party wall itself, or you can call it the party structure, because it only applies to vertical walls, but to horizontal floors as well, because if they're in different ownership, that's where the party wall comes in again. And the sort of work that is affected, any drilling, or cutting, or raising, or lowering, or using its support, like putting a beam in when you're doing a loft conversion, for example. And that needs a party structure notice, so by somebody like me. Next is excavating. Excavating within 3 metres of the house next door, and below the foundations of the house next door. That needs a thing called a 3-metre notice. Or excavating, excavating within 6 metres of the house next door. That's 6 metres down, and the excavation would intersect a line drawn at 45 degrees from the bottom of the foundations next door. See, I told you it was interesting. That is 6 meters notice. And that's the sort of thing, if you're building a swimming pool, or piling, or particularly in this area of London, excavating for a basement, you might be doing that. Now, wait for more. Also, work on the boundary where there isn't a building at all, just like a fence. And that's where it's called the line of junction. And if you serve a notice, you can build right up to the line. And if you get the adjoining owners, he's the chap next door, the adjoining owner, if he gives permission, you can build on the line of junction, on the boundary, and that means you create a new party wall. And you can build a party wall for your extension, for example, and in a couple of years' time, the owner next door can use the same wall and build against it. The catch is that if he does that, he then has to pay half the cost of the original building wall, but nevertheless, it's a good thing to do. So what can I do? I can advise building owners on what parts of the act are involved. I serve notices. I can deal with the adjoining owners' surveyors. I can prepare schedules of conditions of the adjoining owners' buildings so before the work starts. And then when cracks appear, people usually say, oh, that crack wasn't there before. And then you can say, actually it was. Here's the photograph, and there's the same crack, so you can't do that. And I can produce a legal deed called the Party Wall Award and resolve any disputes. And final point to remember, all costs are paid for by the building owner. That's the person doing the work, including the adjoining owner's surveyor's fees. There you are. That's all you need to know about the party wall. So if you want anybody, or you know anybody, or you hear of anybody doing anything with those sorts of works, call me, Tony Fieldhouse. I let you go. Any questions?
How many years retrospective does your work stand up?
Forever, actually. I did tell somebody to go and take a running jump, when he complained that his leaking gutter had affected the house next door 8 years later.
No, that's 7 years is fine, or 6 years and 3 years.
Yeah, but normally building work, you say 6 months for subsiding and removing and cracking and things. But actually, it's forever, if you can prove it. But you've got to prove it. Anyway.
How long, if there's an existing building and there hasn't been a line of junction notice, is there a period in which you can't do anything about it anyway, if that building's been built 10 years ago or whatever?
Yes, once the building work stops, unfortunately. The catch is with the Party Wall Act, it hasn't got many teeth once the building work's finished. Because the only sanction it's really got is that you can stop work. If they've done it already, you're too late. Yes?
Does that mean that if somebody's doing work next door, you can basically, and it's going to affect a party wall, whether it's horizontal or vertical, you can get basically a party wall surveyor, which is you, in and charge them.
Yes.
Tell them that they're going to pay for it.
Exactly that.
Right. I don't think people know that. Yeah, that's interesting.
Put it in your mind.
No, we'll definitely put it in, yeah.
I know, I should.
Definitely.
I think so few of us had little idea what an exciting job you had done.
Okay, so now we know what Tony does to add value, can we try best to bring someone for us next week?